And we're live.
All right, I am recording. From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American Dream.
Vibrator is shear perversity.
You are the dead. Remain exactly where you are. Make no move until you are ordered.
We burn them to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto.
Now we can see you. Clasp your hands behind your heads. Stand out in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it, whether we're young or old?
Here comes a candle to light you to bed. Here comes a chopper to chop off your head.
And welcome to the American Breed Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
This is Colin.
An exciting show for you tonight. Fun-filled episode.
We've already had enough technical details or technical difficulties for like an entire hour, and all on my end.
Well, you're doing all the advanced stuff. I'm just hitting record on it. Did I hit record? Yes, I did. Yay. I actually hit record. Oh, well, let's see. Governor Cuomo resigned.
Huh?
That was interesting. I didn't see that happening. I thought he'd fight that out. But I guess he decided not to. I think he should have sung. Remember that Bowie deep cut, The Heart's Filthy Lesson that they played at the end of Seven?
Vaguely.
Yeah, he should have done that, because I can't do a good Cuomo accent because it's like the Count from the Electric Company who's with a Queen's accent is the best I can do. I think he should have got together with all his accusers and just lip synced "Heart's Filthy Lesson" by David Bowie as a send off on his brother's show on CNN. You gotta have fun with it.
I thought you were gonna say Howard Stern. Like that would work.
Yeah, that would actually work. Howard Stern would be okay with that. So yeah, I heard that was when I heard that I was surprised. I was like, I figured they'd fight that one out. I mean, I've only been hearing about this for 6 months, so
Yeah, because like as soon as he kind of became the face of the response to the pandemic, it was like there was accusations. So it's like, oh, so finally hit.
yeah, the accusations have made their rounds. So he's gone. But yeah, listen to the Bowie "Heart's Filthy Lesson" from the Outside album. And imagine Cuomo singing it with all his
I really haven't listened to like I know of David Bowie, but I've really never sat down and listened to pretty much any of his albums.
I think except for like Clutch and Jethro Tull, I think I have the most songs. I think David Bowie's like a third, with like 70 David Bowie songs. But some of them are just different versions of the same song.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's done a lot of. He's an interesting guy. He's done a lot of interesting music.
Because of course he did was it called Mission Control or is it called Major Tom?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's called Major Tom. Of course, that one, of course.
Ground Control, Major Tom.
Or actually, there's a lot of people. With The Man Who Sold the World, like there's but there's like two other versions. There's like a Nirvana one and the one they did for the Metal Gear Solid 5 video game. It's like it's almost like oh crap, what's the one guy? Bob Dylan, where it's like he wrote like so many good songs that people have done better versions of them.
Yeah. Yeah, there's been a lot of Bowie covers. I mean, because I remember people were in high school. People were like, "Did you hear that Nirvana song?" It's like, you mean the David Bowie song covered? It's like that's not an original. Well, I don't care. It's better. It's like, have you ever heard the original? I mean, I'm not gonna say you're wrong, but
Well, also like the crazy one is always All Along the Watchtower. It's like that was like Bob Dylan cover. It's like, what? It's like, I only know the Jimi Hendrix version.
Yeah.
Why would you bother with anything else? Or like I think it's called Urge Overkill. They did a cover of "Girl, You'll Be a Woman Soon." It was in Pulp Fiction. It's like, oh yeah, that's a better version of that song. And then also, luckily for Quentin Tarantino, it was cheaper.
Yes, you always gotta consider that when you music.
So yeah, like Bowie is definitely the one I have yet to explore. I don't know. There's a lot of big ones like that. Actually, there's like a lot of like I never I've never actually like sat down and listened to a Nirvana album because they were so what do you call that? Not ubiquitous, but they were just everywhere. So it's like, why would I listen to the album when I can just turn on the radio and listen to a Nirvana song?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of like probably the most famous bands where I just never bothered to get their album because it's like, well, I can just hear it everywhere. It's like for free. Yeah, like I've never like really sat down and listened to any Led Zeppelin. Never sat down and listened to the Beatles. Never sat down and listened to Rolling Stones. It's just kind of like you just heard their songs before, but like I don't know any of their albums really.
Yeah. It's like it's the most popular David Bowie song was Heroes. It's been covered by like so many people.
Oh, yeah.
And then Nirvana's Man Who Sold the World and Nine Inch Nails, I'm Afraid of Americans.
Well, that was a collab, so or did he do that before?
I think, let's see.
Because I thought that was a
What was the
collaboration.
story behind that? Well, it became that later, but originally it was a standalone song that David Bowie did.
Huh, okay. I didn't
And then
know that.
Nine Inch Nails covered it, and then they did it together. Well, they did it with basically, I think Nine Inch Nails did the music, and Bowie did all the singing, and Trent Reznor stood there acting like he was shooting people with a machine gun.
Yeah, invisible machine gun.
Yeah, invisible machine gun.
Yeah, Trent Reznor is real like, it's like, oh, you really love Taxi Driver phase.
Yeah.
Taxi Driver and drugs. That's all Trent Reznor could do at the time.
Everyone goes through stuff.
Well, I think there was like almost like 8 years where like the only music he produced was that and Perfect Drug, because I think Downward Spiral came out in '94 and then The Fragile came out in '99. It was just like this big drought in between.
Yeah, there was a weird drought there, wasn't there? But I'm more a fan of early Trent Reznor than later Trent Reznor. So there's been a drought for me since like the early 2000s.
Oh, I'm a fan of it all. Like,
Yeah, I know. You're more of a
well, I think like his later stuff, it's like I appreciate more of his later stuff where like it seems like he doesn't really do the writing anymore. He just kind of got rid of his voice, but he's still good with just like doing music assembly. Like that stuff's real awesome. Like the last thing that I thought was like, oh, this is a cool song and it's written well was the How to Destroy Angels stuff, like the first one.
That was pretty cool.
But I didn't really care much for the follow up of How to Destroy Angels. So now I'm just back to actually like how was it? Add Violence. Add Violence is really good. I liked all that stuff on there. But it's only like 3 songs with lyrics in there, but
Yeah.
and plus it's just like great album name. Just a knob. Add Violence.
Turn it up. God, he's 57 now. That makes me sad. Oh, let's see I got a email today for something. The Last Dangerous Visions, which is the last of the Harlan Ellison sci-fi anthology, which has been stalled since 1974. Because there's Dangerous Visions 1 through 3, which is like it's kind of like 50s and 60s sci-fi, early 70s sci-fi. But it's they're anthology stories, but from like crazy names like Ursula K. Le Guin, Frank Herbert, Anne McCaffrey. It's like, yeah, he called him on the phone. It's like, yeah, I'm working on this anthology, and then of course people wrote these stories commissioned by him for this anthology, and then it never came out. And then people would call him as like, hey, when's that story coming out? And of course Harlan Ellison being Harlan Ellison is like, whenever the fuck it's ready, stop asking me. It's like, oh, okay. So some people withdrew the rights to the story. A lot of the people have died, and they can't trust. You've got to go through like estates to get the rights to publish the story again. So, but Michael
and the estates might not actually own the rights to it.
Yeah, well, that's another thing. Yeah, but after the unfortunate early death of Harlan Ellison's wife, like a year after he died, and she was a lot younger than him, it's Michael J. Straczynski's from Babylon 5's been trying to put this together.
Huh.
So after 46 years, it might come out, pretty soon. And you could, there's a Patreon for it too if you want. But I just thought it was, I've missed Harlan Ellison and his pleasant stories, and like I was like, as right after he died, they were trying to Me Too his corpse. It's like, yeah, this guy was an unpleasant man, and personally, I probably would never want to know him, but he wrote some great science fiction that I really like.
I bet he was a great person to have on your side. He just probably was not on the side of many people.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted someone in your corner to fight for you, you might be like, whoa, let's bring this back a little bit. We don't have to mail anyone a dead gopher or point a pistol at anyone. Just calm down. But it just like popped up in one of my things. It's like, the Last Dangerous Visions might be coming out after 50 years, a 1 million+ word anthology. It's like, wow, that's going to be a doorstopper. I have the first 3, so one of them I paid $90 for on eBay too. But I do have them all, finally. That was a long time ago.
Did they, I mean, this is only vaguely rated. Did they ever finish the Wheel of Time series?
Someone else is writing it, but I don't know.
Well, they still haven't finished it? They still haven't put a period on that series?
I don't think so. 2 more authors have to die. It's part of the prophecy, so...
Because I remember you always bring that up as like the unfortunate, like an author died in the middle of writing an epic, and it's like, we still had 14 more books to go.
Well, it was supposed to be 6 books, and then it turned into 14. And they're like, let's do a prequel. And then the main author, Robert Jordan, died. And then somebody took over for him, and I don't know.
Yeah, I remember you weren't necessarily happy with who took over.
Yeah, I don't. Well, the books were taken. Oh, how did they do it? It was kind of like what Frank Herbert's son did, where they had all these notes and outlines for these books, and they just brought in a writer or somebody who worked with him or whatever, and he just sort of filled in the gaps.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, this has a totally different tone. We're like closing off story loops because apparently the notes didn't say, so we're just going to close off this character. And I kind of, it's not fair to the guy they brought in, but it's like, yeah, I didn't like it.
I don't know. Would it be like let's say George R.R. Martin died, and then they got the Expanse guys to finish the last book? Like, do you think there's any, like, even though they're very close to what he does, do you think there's any way they could do that justice?
Those guys, maybe. But I think they would put some giant tonal shift in there so people know, don't expect the same thing, except expect something good. Because they like to do that in their actual stories. It's like, we're time traveling now. We're going to tell almost a different story with the same characters, but far in the future. Or not far in the future, but in the future. So, yeah, I think those guys could probably carry it off because they have a long track record of being great writers.
Yeah.
And there's 2 of them, and 2 heads are always better than one. When it comes to, like, we're going to make doorstopper epics, that just go on forever. But yeah, so I'm whenever this happens, I don't know when it's going to happen. I'll have to buy a physical copy, so.
But it's like, but it was just purely a rights thing. It wasn't like they're waiting for stuff to be finished. This stuff was just all finished.
Yeah, this is like the most famous sci-fi writers from the 60s and 70s. Huge names. I mean, guys like Christopher Priest. I mean, all kinds of people from that era that he basically like called and petitioned, hey, write the story for these anthologies I'm doing. and some of the authors have disavowed the work since then. They say, I don't want to publish that. I was a different person, different writer at that time, and so yeah, there's been some hurdles.
Yeah.
But then at the end of the day, everyone has kind of like come together and it's like, yeah, I'd like to see this published. Harlan probably deserves this. I mean, he's been working.
Yeah.
He basically worked on it on and off over the course of my entire life. This anthology collection.
Yeah, because that, like, I don't know, his estate, that has to be weird. Because, like, he didn't like to do things on the computer, right? So, like,
I don't necessarily know. I mean, did he use a computer? I know he didn't like digital publishing and stuff.
Yeah.
I know.
I can only go off of, like, the documentary of him.
Yeah.
But it seemed like in the documentary, like, he had... Because he was, like, a worksman writer. Like, he just wrote every day. Whether it was good or not, he wrote.
Yeah.
Which is Stephen King's the same way, which is why he's so prolific. Because, like, he just has so many things in his back pocket. And, like, Harlan Ellison, it's like, there's a lot. Like, so I wonder who's running his estate, because there's a lot that he never released. Probably because
apparently the creative side of it is Michael Straczynski.
Oh, okay.
Because they became really good friends because Ellison did a lot of punch up and stuff on Babylon 5.
Okay.
I
Yeah, that makes
saved
sense.
Babylon 5.
Yeah,
He made it a lot better than what it was.
I mean, you were for Star Trek, so that makes sense.
Yeah. Once, and he hated it.
Oh, he only did one? Okay. Huh.
I think he only did the one.
Because yeah, that's considered one of that. Because then he won like some sort of Emmy for that or whatever, and it's considered one of the best Star Trek episodes of all time.
Yep, City on the Edge of Forever.
Yep,
and it is. I mean, if you really look at it, it's like it's one of the most layered, interesting Star Trek, and a show that was very well written overall, for the most part. Some of it was silly, but yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's production was silly, but like the ideas were generally.
Yeah, the ideas were good.
It's like what we're showing you represents something else. It was good metaphor.
Yeah,
although
that's what they do.
Or simile. There's a thing they taught us in school. A simile meant if you say something is like something, that's simile, and metaphor is like when you compare it to something, but like they have basically nothing in common. So like. I don't know, metaphor. It seems better to say metaphor because people kind of know it's like, oh, a thoughtful examination of like how something compares. Where like when you say simile, it's like that sounds stupid.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yep. But it was. So we'll see what happens.
So the F1 update is that there's no F1 update.
Ah.
They are in their shutdown. Which I saw some YouTube videos of them describing what the shutdown is, and it's kind of interesting because like they literally can't talk to each other. Like no emails, no phone calls. I guess unless it's personal, then it's fine. But like they literally like nobody works for 2 weeks. Now the shutdown's for 4 weeks, but no, but that doesn't necessarily mean like they can't do anything. So I guess like while they shut down the factory, they can do like upgrades on the factory because like they wouldn't be working on it. The people that work on the car aren't working on factory upgrades. That's somebody else. So they can do maintenance, factory upgrades, all that stuff, lawn care, whatever they want during the shutdown. But like they can't do any work on the car. They can't do emails to each other, work. It's like literally, it's like take a break.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's their summer shutdown.
Yeah. I mean, like, most of them have, like, IndyCar just had theirs and they're back now. So IndyCar's back with the Music City GP in Nashville. It's the first time they're in Nashville, and they made it a road course. And part of the course goes over a bridge, so that's pretty cool.
Oh, okay.
But apparently the bridge is very bumpy. So, oh man, I didn't actually watch the race. I watched highlights of it, well, that's how I've watched every race except for the Indianapolis 500 because I took off to watch a wrestling thing, and that happened to be on the same day. So that's the one I actually watched live. But yeah, people are talking about this as like a wonderful shit show. Because like some of the like part of the track is like incredibly narrow. It's like some parts of the track, it's like you can only get one car in there. and so there was there's something like 8 yellow flags and restarts within like the first 16 laps. And then the crazy one is like they're so that like somebody crashed, they reset, they're behind the safety car, they're starting up the race again, and it's Marcus Ericsson, I think it is. He just ran so he thought, all right, we're going. So he just hits the gas and he runs right into the back of this guy, and he like flings his car like 6 feet in the fucking air.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's like, oh, race over for him. Nope, he wins the fucking race.
We appreciate your aggression and therefore have awarded victory.
But I guess, they can just replace those front wings, but like he totally fucked up the guy who's race in front of him. Like they can't repair the back of the car.
Axle back together.
Grosjean read the lace for I don't know, 5 laps or something. But then as soon as he pitted, he was just like shuffled to the middle of the field. There's a lot of weird. Yeah, it was a weird race. It was fun because it's a street course, so people are calling it Walmart Baku.
Okay. They love to get those shitty things in there.
There's a lot of things. I don't know. I think it's pretty cool. There's a lot of lessons they can learn from it. But like, what other race are people going across a bridge at 200 miles an hour? It's like not many.
It's maybe not structurally the best bridge ever built for this kind of hardcore racing.
Yeah. But it looks cool. It's a cool look. Yeah. So hopefully they'll get another chance at that probably. So, the other news is McLaren is in F1, but they're partnered with this company called Arrow. So it's Arrow McLaren Racing, and McLaren just bought a majority stake in the whole team. So basically, McLaren owns the team now, like pretty much all the way through.
Okay.
So that's a pretty good commitment for them, and they're up there. Like they could win the championship this year, and that'll break the hold that Andretti, Penske, and what's the other one? Chip Ganassi have had on for like the last 20 years. So, but I don't know I think Alex Palou, I think he's looking pretty good. I forget who he races for, but he's like won 2 races this year. But also he came in second at the Indy 500, which that basically counted for 2 second places. And also the weird one, I think Scott Dixon, who won the championship last year, who hasn't won a race this year, but he's got a lot of like 3rd and 4th place finishes, so he's like up there. But yeah, that's how the championship shakes out right now. And Alex Albon's been poking around IndyCar, looking to see, just kind of looking at things around. If he doesn't get a seat in F1, I think he might be in IndyCar next year.
Oh, okay.
Which would be cool. Yeah. And then I don't know. Yeah, I think that's all the racing related stuff I can remember. But yeah, it's
okay.
Yeah, no more F1 for 3 more weeks. So
3 more weeks. I thought it was just a 2-week shutdown.
No, 4 weeks.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, what I was talking about is like they have a 2-week shutdown, but then another 2 weeks where they don't have racing, but that's where they have to come back to work for 2 weeks.
Oh, that's when they can start working the stuff.
Yeah. That's when it starts to get silly season. We'll see if there's any driver changes, which I don't expect there to be any, because usually it's Red Bull that likes to do that stuff. It's like it's not working out. Like so, I don't know. So I almost feel bad for Yuki Tsunoda because it's like obvious talent, but like the fucking Red Bull just churn him around. It's like I remember somebody said, I think it's Franz Tost who runs AlphaTauri, and he said like, it's gonna take him 2 years to kind of get used to the F1 car. It's like, fucking don't say that out loud to Red Bull. They're not gonna give him 2 fucking years to learn how to drive this car.
Yeah.
He's fucking 21 years old. Give him a break. Yeah, because he like the interesting thing about Yuki Tsunoda, he's never spent more than 1 year in any racing class. He's just like, oh, he's good, promote him. And I don't think he, huh?
They're using the Peter principle, just like promote him until he can't do it anymore.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
Because like he's like, I don't think he's like won. Like maybe he's had to won something, but like he didn't when he was in F3, he didn't win F3. But like he's good, promote him to F2. When he was F2, he didn't win. Well, I mean, he won races, but he didn't like win the championship. Like
Yeah.
I think he actually came in fourth or third in the championship, and Mick Schumacher won it last year. And then, but there's obvious talent because like you see replays of his races, and it's like how the fuck did he do? Because I remember this one where it was like there's like two guys racing. And it was for the lead, and these guys were like battling it out. And like while they're battling out, like Yuki Tsunoda just came in and went past both of them and said, "Fuck you," won the race. It's like, damn, like you can see the talent there. But yeah, he's just been caught trying way too hard this year. Like he's always crashing the car and spinning it out, and like when you're doing that, you're just trying too hard. But
Oh, so any wrestling news this week?
oh yeah, a lot of.
An implosion?
Yeah, I've wrote here WWE NXT implosion. A lot of weird shit happening right now. So like you remember the Fiend?
Yes.
And like, so like I showed you this. They haven't done great with it, but it's usually like they can kind of come back around to it, and it's kind of interesting. And he's like their number one merch seller. Like they fucking have a belt. But like when he won the championship, they made a belt that had like his face on it. It was a championship belt. $6,000. People buy it.
Yeah, give me two.
He's number one merch seller. Let him go. He's not with the company anymore.
That's interesting. You get to take any of that character and stuff with him, or how's that done? Okay,
No,
so
they own that. They own that.
Okay, I wasn't sure how it worked. But
Oh yeah. WWE does real fun shit like that where it's like they try because there's a lady, her name's Chelsea Green, and they let her go recently too, and she just her like non-compete clause just went up, and so she's back in wrestling as Chelsea Green because that's her fucking born name, and then
Yeah.
WWE has 6 lawyers on her. It's like, no, we own that name. It's like, no, you don't. And so, but they actually dropped the case. But yeah, they love to like say they own your God-given name. They love to do garbage like that. Because they're $1 billion company of lawyers who have nothing better to do.
yeah, it's like, we're paying these guys, damn it. Go screw somebody's life up.
Yeah, so they got rid of him citing financial reasons, even though they are more financially successful than they ever have been currently.
Oh, just being greedy, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, because when AEW started up, they just started hiring people and giving them like the biggest contracts they could. And they were signing them to like 5-year deals, like with the biggest money they could give them. And now they're just like, that's a bit too much money. Like, we're just gonna fire you. And like, so now it's weird because now just like AEW is just like, oh fuck. We have all these people we can get, but like we kind of have too many people right now. And it's like, who does WWE have? Because I mean, they still have like their people, but it's like they got rid of so many good people, and they let go of a ton of NXT talent. Like they had a guy, Bronson Reed, who was like really cool, and he won the North American title, and he was their champion for a bit, and then he like lost it. And the North American Championship is kind of like a secondary title down in NXT. And so he lost it. It seemed like, oh, he's going to WWE. Like that's usually mean when someone loses their title, they're about to get called up.
Yeah.
No, let him go. Apparently saw nothing in him. Let go of a ton of other people, and apparently the directive is the wording that Dave Meltzer got from his source is like no more midgets and no more people over 30.
Nice. Okay.
So they're just going to basically destroy NXT and make it a real development. Because the fun thing about NXT is they're basically signing like really talented people from the indie scenes. They're bringing them into NXT to do their thing. So they went and they do the thing. That's why NXT, at least the takeovers, are fantastic because they just like put on great matches. And their storyline otherwise is like, you know, it's kind of hit or miss, especially when they've gone to the 2 hours and are in USA. But now it's like they're going to a thing where like they don't want wrestlers. Like they don't want people trained to be wrestlers. They want to get like football players that weren't drafted and just turn them into wrestlers. They want to get like bodybuilders, get all these people who like aren't wrestlers, who are big and tall and look muscly, and try to turn them into wrestlers rather than get people who like devote their life to the art of wrestling.
Is this a money thing, or is this trying to establish a brand image that's separate?
I don't know. Like basically every like 15 years, Vince McMahon does this. He's just like, we need tall, big people, because that's what sells money. And then like so they just go look out for young talent. Because I mean, like they fired Hulk Hogan when he was like 35 or something. It's like, he's getting too old. It's like he's selling out stadiums, like too old. You know, so this is the same thing again, and it's like just funny that like Vince McMahon, who's 76 years old, saying people that are like 34, too old, you're over the hill.
Vince is a fickle mistress.
So yeah, it's just like So and it also seems like Triple H, who like leads NXT, he was not informed of these cuts either, so that was like made him look a fool. And so yeah, it looks like it kind of seems like NXT is gonna go way downhill. Not immediately, but eventually it's gonna be bad. I don't know. Maybe they'll pull a diamond out of the rough, but you know.
Maybe Vince and Trump will team up again and it's all work.
But yeah, this kind of seems like the first time that like, you know, Vince has usually let NXT be NXT, and not anymore. We've all worried about this thing, but I mean, I don't know. It's the weird thing because basically every NXT call up has been bad. Like they call these people up, they see their obvious talent, and they don't want to do what they're good at, and so they try to make them do something different, which is like the same boring stuff they've been doing for the last 50 years.
Yeah.
And so, but that's like the kind of the disconnect between NXT and WWE is because they're training people in NXT, but they're also letting them do their own thing. And then when they get to WWE, they have no room to do their own thing. They're told what to do, and they go out there and do it. And what they're told to do is garbage. Because like when
you developed and worked on for years before, fuck that. Here's money. Eat it, cry into it, but this is it.
Because like when you end it, like you have to like draw comparisons between AEW and NXT, and when you compare NXT to AEW, like NXT kind of seems like garbage. Like I mean, the wrestling's kind of on par, but the story wise, NXT's kind of garbage. But like when you compare NXT to WWE, like NXT is so much better, so much enjoyable. Not a waste of your time. WWE is just garbage.
Yeah.
But they brought John Cena back, so he's selling out stadiums.
He's back.
He's doing house shows too. Yeah, he's not doing part-time stuff. He's doing house shows.
Oh, okay.
Which a house show is basically mean like you do a show, it's just not recorded for television. Which is generally that's the thing that like destroys wrestlers, is because like you see them on TV like maybe once or twice a week, but really they're wrestling like fucking 5 times a week.
Jesus.
Yeah.
That's tough on people.
Yep. Although I hear house shows are a lot funner because being that they're not recorded, there's not a lot of like
production pressure.
Yeah, and there's not people like looking for you to like, there's a lot more leeway. Like you can do fun stuff, you can do goofy stuff, and it's like it's just a fun time rather than like, no, we wrote the script for you. Yeah. So
Well, we'll have to see what happens. You'll have to keep us updated.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully Illinois. Well, I don't know. This is a weird thing to hope for, but like I hope Illinois doesn't shut anything down. At least for the next week, because next week on Friday you're going to have Rampage, which is good. Obviously, well, I mean, we'll see, but it's like this is the most obvious thing that CM Punk is going to return to wrestling in Chicago.
Yeah, you were telling me that.
So it's 1 week away, and then you got all the All Out stuff going on in September, in Chicago as well. So that seems it's a real exciting time.
All right. Well, we watched a movie this week.
Yeah.
We watched the Eyes of Laura Mars, which is a interesting. It was an interesting movie.
Yeah, the movie's okay. There's some good ideas, but I think the most fascinating about this is like the convergence of talent.
Yes.
It's like who did this and when did they do it? It's like what the hell happened? Because like you have Irving Kershner directing this, and his next movie is Empire Strikes Back. Like this is the movie he did before that,
don't you?
Why is that?
Because George Lucas saw the rough shot of this before it went out in theaters, and he's like, "Oh, I like what he did here. Hey, you want to direct The Empire Strikes Back?" Literally this story.
Huh.
I don't know anything about what he liked about it specifically, or what was what grabbed his attention about it. But this is why.
This is fucking written by John Carpenter. Yes, that John Carpenter. And this preceded him making Halloween, so that was like, huh.
This gave him the money to like invest in, because he just sold it as a spec script called Eyes.
Yeah.
And it originally did not have any of the fashion photography elements. It was just a woman that could see the murderer killing through her eyes. You know, like what happened in the movie.
Yeah.
That was about the only idea they kept from the John Carpenter script. Because this movie, the script was rewritten by David Zelig, who wrote the Peckinpah script for Straw Dogs for the Peckinpah movie.
All right.
And wrote the script for Logan's Run. It's like, well, okay.
It's also produced by John Peters, who if you ever listen to Kevin Smith talk about him, he is a wild and weird guy.
I want to do Spider-Man, but I don't want the cape and none of the flying. Or Superman. Yeah, it was Superman.
Yeah.
And I wanted to fight a giant spider. It's like, okay. Yeah, I remember that evening with Kevin Smith.
Yeah, there's a whole book about him. It's called Hit and Run, which is about like basically like them just like bilking Hollywood for millions of dollars.
Fucking Sony out of almost $1 billion. And
yeah. Any Superman thing that gets made, he gets money, like no matter what happens. He's most famous. Well, actually, like where he got started, he was a hairdresser for Barbra Streisand, and then just became a producer at some point. Interesting. She was supposed to be in this movie, but couldn't. But she does sing the theme song, which is a pretty good song.
Yes, after they found out Barbra Streisand couldn't be in this movie, Jane Fonda and Goldie Hawn were considered. And Irving Kershner said he didn't want anything to do with it if those two were going to be. If he had to work with those actresses, he didn't want to do anything with it. But then when they said, well, we got Faye Dunaway, he was like, oh, okay, yeah, I like her. Irving Kershner passed on this movie once, and they brought it back because they kept changing it around. They didn't have a complete script written when they started filming this.
Seems all right.
And you can tell. Because some of the stuff's like really well put together, but then towards the end, it really starts to get weird.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what the movie's about before and I always jump ahead on that shit.
So you have a Laura Mars who is a photographer, and she has kind of these books that she sells of her photography, and it is at least recently her work is about like murder scenes. And
Yeah.
it's supposed to be like reflective on like the violence of society and about fashion and violence and all that stuff too.
All that artsy fartsy stuff, that really does come along every so often.
And there's like some sequences where it seems like she's dreaming about like somebody being murdered, and then then she starts to realize like, oh, that thing I dreamt, it's happening, and then it's like, oh, I'm not dreaming, now I'm just seeing the murders, and that's what's kind of brilliant about like the mystery of this is that she's seeing through the eyes of the killer, so she can't see who the killer is. But she does see the murder happen, and then she can't explain it to the police whatsoever, because it's a supernatural thing. So it's like, why would you believe somebody? It's like, I saw the murder. Like, how? It's like, magic.
And it's never really explained either.
No. I mean, you don't have to, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's almost like an M. Night Shyamalan kind of movie, but predates that. So
Yeah. We have a very young Tommy Lee Jones.
yeah. Young Tommy Lee Jones who still looks like he's 40.
Yeah.
He just kind of has that craggly face even when he's young.
Yeah. And then Brad Dourif.
It's interesting to I was listening to Action Boys and they were covering a movie that Tommy Lee Jones was in that I never heard of because it was a TV movie, like one of HBO's first TV movies called The Park Is Mine, which is basically like his Rambo.
Really?
It's about him. He's like a Vietnam vet who takes over Central Park and like sets up all these booby traps and stuff, and then it's like all about him like trying to point out like how veterans are being how badly they're being treated and stuff. It's like it was fascinating to listen to. It's like I had no idea this movie existed.
Huh.
And it's shot in Canada, but it's supposed to be in New York.
The only other thing I know about Tommy Lee Jones that's weird is he was a football player for Harvard, and his college roommate was Al Gore.
Yep.
Which is weird, and he went to Harvard on a scholarship because he was so good in school.
Yeah, I think he's also, there's a weird movie. I'm not sure if he was on the. He may have played this, but there's like, it's like Stanford versus Harvard, like 16-16 Stanford wins or something like that. It's a documentary about like this, or it's 0-0 Stanford wins. It's like a pointless game that happened between Harvard and Stanford, but somehow Stanford was declared the winner even though nobody scored. And he's in that documentary.
Oh, okay.
Because I think like also like Meryl Streep went to school at the same time with him, or maybe he dated Meryl Streep. I can't remember. Anyways,
I probably did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he did some weird. He had such an interesting career.
Yeah.
Because I remember like what was his first big movie? Like he was in Coal Miner's Daughter, Rolling Thunder. There was stuff, and then like Black Moon Rising, which is not a great movie.
That's another John Carpenter. Did John Carpenter direct that? I know he wrote it, but did he direct that one?
No, he just wrote it.
Okay.
Yeah, someone named Harry Cockless directed it or something.
Oh, okay.
Like I said, not a great movie, but his performance in it was great.
Yeah. Because it's like in his early career, he's still kind of like doing things before he has like this like kind of quiet stoicness that he's kind of latched onto in the later part of his career. But like before that, he kind of did a lot of wacky stuff. Right? Like because he kind of grew into this like very low tumbly voice, but he always had kind of like almost like duck wacky stuff he'd do. Like I mean, if you watch like his rendition of Two-Face from the Batman Forever movie, like that's what he used to be. He would try stuff and it wasn't always good.
Remember he did some movie like in the early 90s, something to do with like the Apache helicopters.
Oh yeah. Him and Meg Ryan. It was basically a
Top Gun with
Firebirds. Yeah, because it's him and Nicolas Cage is in it. But yeah, it's Top Gun with helicopters. Yeah.
And then he was in JFK. He played Clay Shaw.
Yeah.
And then like everyone remembers him as the best part of Under Siege. he was like the crazy CIA guy who was. But it was really, the best part of Under Siege. I don't know if it was him or Gary Busey. It's like hard to tell.
Well, I mean, it wasn't Steven Seagal.
Oh, well, we know who it wasn't. And one of his best roles ever was when he played Ty Cobb.
Huh.
Because it's basically like him and another guy. It's like a play because it's shot in one room.
Yeah.
But it's Ty Cobb reflecting about his life. And remember when Ty Cobb was someone who was so hated that like they tried the other people who played baseball tried to keep him out of the Hall of Fame. It's like we don't want to see this guy again. And it was kind of like Ty Cobb telling his own story. But yeah, he was a hateful, evil guy.
But yeah, I mean, it was Fugitive that made Tommy Lee Jones' career. He kind of rode that for the rest of his career.
Well, yeah, and then No Country for Old Men, that established his elder roles as always this kind of grim, stoic guy. I'm from West Texas,
Although now he's got a lot of like straight to DVD stuff. Like there's one that's called like Electric Mist or something like that, and it's like I don't even know what it's about, but I know it exists.
It's about something in the swamps of Louisiana and people shooting each other, and it's like I tried to watch. It's like, ooh, Tommy Lee Jones is like, oh, this is something else from the Amazon graveyard. I'm gonna get 20 minutes into and be like, nope.
Anyways, in this movie, he plays a detective, and one of the interesting thing is like he brings out her book, which is called the Eyes of Laura Mars, and he sees a scene that she depicts of like, of all these people dead, and then like he's like, here's a crime scene from 2-3 months ago, and it's like the exact same thing, but with different with models, and it's like, and like, how would you know this? And like, I just see these things. So that's like one of the interesting moments. Like, oh, like that's interesting. Like her art. Her art is her visions, but she doesn't even know what it is yet.
Yeah, it's like there's a lot of like it's foreshadowing the foreshadowing. Oh, and on the front of the book, the eye's stabbed on the left side. I don't know if you noticed that. One of the murderer is always stabbing someone through the eye socket with an ice pick.
Oh yeah, and you were gonna talk about Brad Dourif.
Yeah, I was just like he was a young guy then, but he already had like an Academy Award nomination under his belt when he did this for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And then Odo was in this. That was her body guy.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Huh.
His name Rene Auberjonois. It sounds French, but yeah.
Okay. Yep.
Yep.
He has a weird.
It's like Odo.
He has a weird tiny face because he has like a big afro. So his face looks small.
Yeah, he's a strange looking guy.
Yeah.
And then Raul Julia.
Yeah.
Made an appearance, makes a couple of appearances. And I'll notice this cast we're naming from Faye Dunaway and Tommy Lee Jones now, these are basically all the suspects.
Yeah.
But as soon as these people get killed off or something happens, it's like, oh, it can't be him, it can't be him, it can't be him. And then by the end, you kind of guess who it is. But it's like, well, that's only because of elimination. Because it was really hard to follow. It's like, well, who could the murderer be?
And that awkward point at the end where it's like, where she sees like the killer running for a door, and then all of a sudden like Tommy Lee Jones like jumps to the window, and then he just kind of is like, "Hey, what's going on?" It's like everything's okay. That's
the last. Yeah, it was weird, and there's a reason why. The last they didn't really know who the killer was as they were filming the movie because they hadn't worked the script out. Tommy Lee Jones basically improvised and performed all that for Irving Kershner before they shot it. And he was like, yeah, cool. That was all Tommy Lee Jones and Faye Dunaway, like, basically doing dialogue in the last scene of that movie.
Yeah.
It was like because all their dialogue in the park, in Central Park, where they start kissing and then walk away, like, this is unprofessional. That's all like on the spot.
Improv, essentially.
Yeah, all improvisation. That was pure improvisation. The last scene in the movie where we find out that Tommy Lee Jones is the split personality killer. Now that him and Faye Dunaway came up with that, but Tommy Lee Jones wrote most of that.
Yeah.
And the director was like, "Yeah, cool, it works." He just thought it was fun to shoot in New York. He loved it. It's like, this is such a naturally awful place to shoot this killer movie. This is great. What about the script, Irving? You know what? We got time.
I don't know. There's some music in this movie. I don't know if it was created for this or if it was like some like stock stuff, because like I swear they use like the same they use the same like music stings for Ghostbusters.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure. Let me look up the soundtrack. It seems like there's a bunch of names and credits. It was only released as an LP and was never released on CD, and it's out of print. But it was made by Columbia Records by Gary Klein and John Peters and Charles Koppelman. So if we maybe cross-reference that with Ghostbusters, it might have been. Ghostbusters is a weird story behind their soundtrack. We'll have to go into that sometime. Because it's basically like the first time they just was like, we're going to sample the parts of songs we like and not include it in the soundtrack so we don't have to pay you. It's like, what? But, yeah, anyway. Eyes of Laura Mars.
But yeah, like one of the interesting things like later on is that as she starts to have these visions, like her visions are like blinding her. And so, like, she sees, like, the killer coming for her, but she can't see where she is. And you see her, like, stumble back and, like, reach for things. And it's like, that's an interesting, like dilemma.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's kind of done. It's like an interesting special effect, too. It's I've never seen anything like that before or since in a movie. I don't know if it was done to be unique or if they're like, oh, we just need to do this. But it was like, because it was kind of like dark vision almost. It's like she can see, but everything's sort of silhouetted with light.
It's almost like
enough of the details to know, but
also like it's like almost a fisheye lens, but not exactly, and like it seems like it's covered in Vaseline, so it's very fuzzy. but you can still make out all the details, but it's just kind of warped in a weird way.
Yeah, it's a very I've never seen anything before or since, probably because they were at some midpoint in technology, like, well, we have to combine these two old things to get this, and then they came up with something a year later. It's like, well, we'll never do that again because we've got this new thing.
I mean, they probably just literally covered the whole lens in Vaseline or something.
Yeah, I'm probably making more out of this than because I don't know what I'm talking about, but you know.
Well, I don't know. That's like it's a common camera trick to spread Vaseline on it because that's how they shot the land speeder stuff in Star Wars. Because like the land speeder, or not the land speeder, but the car that they drive around on Tatooine, it had
it didn't really float.
No, it had wheels on it, but they just like rubbed Vaseline on the bottom of it where the wheels would be, and so that covered it up when they're shooting.
Oh, look, it's like heat effect. It's like, yeah, that's what it is. God, nice. It's heat effect.
And then like who knows? And then like and if you've ever seen Star Wars now, it's like that's a weird thing about Star Wars is like there's almost no way to watch like the original version. Like it's all just the restoration ones now. It's like
yeah, you don't even remember how weird that looked.
Yeah,
but how amazing it looked for its time.
Yeah.
And how many tricks were done to make it look that way? Because now it's all just digitalized and edited in and bright or dark. One of that too. This film was actually shot a lot in New York and New Jersey, and most of the background stuff, except for some of the the like the weird Columbus Circle shoot where they had the car wrecks and the models, doing that kind of stuff. Irving Kershner said a lot of this movie was not hard to make it look bad because New York looked really bad. You didn't need to like add filth onto the streets or anything. It's like, yeah, we just shoot. Just make sure the actors and actresses don't get killed.
Look at all this production value. Thanks for shitting on the sidewalk.
And that one scene where what was it? Tommy Lee Jones did all his own stunts in this movie because he was actually in really good physical shape. Like when he climbed over the gate to chase after that guy, he actually did that. because they were gonna like set something up and get a guy in there, and he's like, "No, let's just do this." And okay, and they said that he could actually run very fast, actually faster than the camera dolly. So they had to reshoot his running scenes a few times. It's like, don't run that fast, Tom. Couldn't believe how fast this guy could run because he was basically a college athlete, 5 or 6 years before this. So yeah, but a lot of the stuff, like when he jumped through the window, and that was him. It was just like, it was kind of let's get this done. Because of course Faye Dunaway did not like the producer at all.
Yeah.
They had a very contentious relationship the whole 50 some days this movie was shot.
But yeah, I mean, interesting movie. I never even heard of it before, and it's nice to see like just how many people are associated with it. It's like I had no idea.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of people associated with this. Like John Carpenter, of course, first comes up. It's interesting when they did the foreign release of this movie, because John Carpenter sold the script and made Halloween, and it came out after this movie, but not way long after, like maybe 6-8 weeks. Because back then, the foreign release for an American movie was like a year later.
Yeah.
They started sticking his name on the foreign posters because of Halloween. They were like a story by John Carpenter, and he was sort of like not happy about it, but I think he was also getting paid for it. So I was like, okay, they can do what they want. They bought the script, so they have the right to say that. But but in his opinion, they shit all over the script, because I could have made a better movie for half the money. But John Carpenter always says that. And, sometimes it's.
I mean, it's true, but it's probably true.
Yeah. This movie's considered very derivative of a lot of horror movies from other countries because of all the misdirection in it, which is very common in horror movies at that time.
Yeah. I forget there's like a style of Italian kind of like supernatural thrillers.
Yeah.
There's a name for it. I can't remember, but they're basically saying like, yeah, it's just ripping off Italian thriller horror movies.
I just heard foreign films. I didn't hear anything specific.
Yeah.
In my notes and research.
Yeah, it's like one of those movies that like Jay on from Red Letter Media would reference. And they cut to some Italian woman covered in blood. And it's like, yeah, this is genius. It's like, what the fuck is this, Jay?
Oh, giallo. Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
That's the term. I just looked it up. I didn't just come to my head. I looked it up while Condon was talking. Yeah, okay, I know what. Okay, yeah. I'm looking through movies in this genre. It's like, yeah, where have I heard all these? Oh, yeah, Red Letter Media. Okay.
I think Suspiria. I think Suspiria is one of those.
Yes.
There's a modern remake of it, but there was an Italian Suspiria, I believe.
Yeah, it's just a lot of blood and weird lighting and people covered in horrible things.
And kind of just like a bunch of like direction churns. Like, where's this movie going? It's like, you have no idea. It's like, what is this movie? You have no idea.
It just looks to me like the set of A Clockwork Orange soaked in blood is what I'm seeing here.
Yeah.
So, okay, I get it. I always wanted one of those like Korova milk bar mannequins just to have in the house. See who noticed what it was, but I don't think Stacy would go for that. Topless woman, a sexually suggestive pose, and you get milk out of her boobs. So yeah, this movie I'd have to say was okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
I actually like Cotton Comes to Harlem more than this because
yeah,
it was like that was something different and fun and not a genre I'm exposed to.
Well, there's a lot of like social stuff we could pull out of that. Where here, there's nothing social. There's no social commentary for this other than like I guess the violence, but that's always in films. Like films are always a social commentary on violence. So.
This movie seems to be. There's a lot of horror movies from the 70s and horror type movies that everyone was trying to be Rosemary's Baby or The Exorcist. Yeah. Some variation of that, and they all have the same look. They all have the same feel. I know the story elements are the same. So I just considered this as like, oh, this is one of those dead dick 70s copies of great horror movies that came earlier and that sold a lot of tickets. But this one, like, except for the cast being really neat to watch because we know all these people, it's like, yeah, this wasn't really a great movie. It was actually kind of boring and it wasn't really that violent and exploitative. It suggested violence. It showed the aftermath of violence, but it wasn't like we never saw the ice pick going into the eye. Which what so they did kind of pull back a little bit, I think.
Yeah, you see a guy stabbing, and then you cut to like a lady with her eye perfectly fine, but there's just some red shit on her face.
Yeah. So
it wasn't like there's not like a perforated eyeball or anything like that. So.
Yeah, inside shot of an eye socket being emptied out. Like, you don't need that, but this seemed to be derivative of more successful movies in America that time than the Italian stuff.
And I didn't look it up, so I don't know if this movie was like successful or not. But
not really. I mean, they spent $7 million on it, but then they also spent like $8 million advertising it in the U.S. and that's in late 70s bucks. And then they had a big overseas like extravaganza for it that cost even more money. So, I mean, it's 50% overall ratings, and that's reviews from the 70s to the present. So yeah, it wasn't. It's like I said, for me, it was kind of like after a while, it was like, oh, okay,
But yeah, I kind of picked this one because we've just happened to watch a lot of Faye Dunaway movies, and it's like, yeah, she's good.
It's fine. I've never seen this before, and now that I've watched it, it's like, yeah, it's okay. Better movies with these actors and about this kind of stuff.
It's probably enjoyed better in obscurity than like being suggested to us. Because this wasn't like a highlight. This is just kind of in the noir list, and so I picked it because of Faye Dunaway. So
yeah, and like I said, the cast is great. It's got name recognition then and now, but different people.
Yeah,
and then you throw John Carpenter into it. It's like, well, this might be cool. And oh. This is what you call a Hollywood clusterfuck. It's like we got all the right people, we got all the right components, we have cameras and people who know how to operate them, and no story. Let's improvise dialogue as we go because we like the grittiness of New York. That'll paste over all the continuity and character problems. Gritty city.
And almost everybody went on to do a lot better things than this.
Oh yeah.
I'm not sure about Faye Dunaway. Would she do like China Syndrome after this?
Oh, what did Faye Dunaway? Faye Dunaway's done a lot of stuff. She's 80 now.
Yeah.
That's doesn't seem. Yeah, can we just like? I don't need a. Can I just get the filmography, not a 5-page college essay about Faye Dunaway? God, I hate that. Just filmography. Let's see. What did she do after? Well, right before this, she did Network, which is an awesome movie.
All right.
Mommy Dearest. This movie. I mean, she did Champ and something else. Mommy Dearest. She was in Supergirl.
Huh.
1984. Don't remember that. Oh, Barfly.
I don't know what that is.
It's basically exactly what it sounds like. Let's watch Mickey Rourke drink himself to death instead of in real life. Midnight Crossing. Don't know what that one is. The Two Jakes, Scorchers. What's the biggest Faye Dunaway movie? She was kind of a 70s, early 80s actress. And
well, I mean, Bonnie and Clyde was pretty big. And
yeah.
Yeah, I thought China Syndrome was like late 80s or late 70s, but or maybe she's not even in that. I think she's in that.
I don't think she's in that. She's in Chinatown, The Four Musketeers, 3 Days of the Condor.
Huh. Yeah, because it's Michael
China Syndrome. Now I got to look it up.
Michael Douglas and somebody.
I think that was
Jane Fonda. Okay.
Jane Fonda. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I was confused.
And Jack Lemmon. That was a cool movie for its time. But not on our neo-noir checklist. Well, do you have anything else for this week?
I do not.
All right. Well, this week for the American Greed Factory podcast, this is Nathan.
This is Conlon. Goodbye, America.